What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I want to make this video talking about my 1-year ownership experience of this car. I had this car for a little over a year now, just to kind of share my thoughts and opinions on it, and I see what other people think about it. So I bought this car in August of 2018, so last year, and I bought it with like 52 or 5,300 miles on it, and I bought it for $52,000. I bought it out of Marietta, Georgia, and I had it shipped down to me in Louisiana. First mistake right there is I should have went and got it. I wish I did. I wish I wouldn't have had it shipped. I wish I just would have been able, I wish I would have taken the trip and the experience of going and get the car. So if you're ever in that position, I would recommend going and get the car if you can, instead of having to ship. Now, so once I got the car, I mean, I've test driven one before I even had it. That's how I knew I wanted it. It's a very different car. It's a very special car because of the motor, because of the 5.2 liter flat plane crank. That's a very, very special motor. It's very unique. Now, with that, man, these roads are rough. So with that, you know, you have some issues. The Voodoo motor, they have a lot of engine issues, believe it or not. So one of the issues is, well, I mean, it revs to over 8,000 RPMs. It redlines to 8,250 RPMs. So that motor's just shaking itself to death. Now, I know Ford, they did their part in trying to make it work that way, and it does for the most part.
Proceed 3 miles to I-10 East.
So one of the issues with these motors is at those RPMs, it can spin the oil filter loose. It's just like a regular oil filter, you know, just a regular oil filter canister, I guess you could say, or just the oil filter itself. Hard to explain. I don't know if some people understand it or not. So those RPMs can spin that oil filter loose, which you will then lose all of your oil, and then if you don't catch it quick enough, and you will definitely run the risk of ruining this motor. And they do make a kit for that. They make a different oil filter housing kit. It's a canister style with a filter inside the canister. But I looked at, see, mine doesn't have that. I have the regular oil filter, so mine can spin loose if it's not torqued down and tightened properly. But that oil filter canister with the filter inside the canister, that's $500. I mean, is it worth it? Yeah, definitely, for the peace of mind of not spinning your oil filter loose and running the risk of ruining your motor. So the other thing with this is these motors burn oil. I'm sure everybody's heard of it, everybody knows about it. They burn a lot of oil. Well, I say a lot, depending, it varies by car. Mine doesn't burn that much, it burns some. Mine probably burns about a quart every 3,000 miles. I know some people, they'll burn a quart in 500 miles. And if you don't constantly check your oil level, and you end up driving that car with no oil in it, you'll probably blow that motor, and then you'll ruin the motor. And then with that comes also, these motors tend to spin rod bearings. Revving so high, that puts a lot of strain and a lot of torque and power on the internals of this motor. So sometimes they'll spin the rod bearings, or you know, and then you're out of a motor again. So that's 3 or 4 different things right there that you gotta watch out for on this motor. So thankfully, mine hasn't had no engine issues really. Oh, I lied, it has had an engine issue. Nothing catastrophic though. So revving so high, mine broke a cam position wire. The wire to the cam position sensor broke, and the sensor wasn't reading. So it almost sounded like this car was cammed because the cam position sensor wasn't reading properly, and it was loping like it was chopping, kind of like it was cammed. And I do have to say, it did sound pretty good. But other than that, that's the only real engine issue I've had with this car. Luckily, some people, they're on their second or third motor with this car. Now, but the big issue I do have with this car is the rear bumper gap. So they say that the rear bumpers on these cars are pretty heavy from factory, and they sag down, and it creates a gap between the rear bumper and the fenders. And there's a TSB on that for Ford, where they replace the brackets for the rear bumper. They're more supportive brackets so it doesn't sag. Well, I did that. Okay, alright. Oh man, the traffic. So I had those brackets replaced. It didn't fix it. So I brought it back to them, I had them look at it again, and then they fixed it a lot better the second time I brought it to them. But over time, it's still not fixed. The bumper's still sagging. There's still a bumper gap, and I don't know if I even want to bring it back and deal with it.
Proceed 4 miles on I-10 East.
So I don't know if I even really just want to deal with bringing the car back to the dealership for the third time for the same issue. I mean, my next step would be to tell them, okay, this is the third time y'all have tried to fix this. Order me a new rear bumper, paint it, and put the stripes on it, and then we'll go from there. I don't know if you even want to try that. I don't even know if that would be if they would even be able to do that. But that's my biggest issue with the car, is the rear bumper gap. A lot of people, a lot of other Shelby owners, they have the same issue, but they don't want to take it to the dealership because of it possibly being either A, not fixed, or B, worse. I mean, that's just one of the things about this car. Now, with all those problems, well, that I could really find, or especially with all the engine issues that these motors tend to have, why do I still have it a year later? And why do people buy them? And why do people keep buying them? And why do they upgrade to the R? Why do they keep it? Why don't they sell it? Because this engine is very special and very unique, and it's just the way it drives. Like whenever you're driving hard and you're driving that red line, and it's just, it doesn't drive like any other car for the price. It really doesn't. The only thing I can think of other than this car is a C7Z06. Now, a C7Z06 is a fantastic car. It's a very track-ready car. It's a very capable car. But I've talked to people who've had both a 350 and a C7Z06, and they say the 350 hands down because of how it drives. The way this car drives is it's unlike any other car. It's like, I know this might sound kind of corny, I guess you could say, but it's almost like this car has a soul whenever you're driving it, how it's supposed to be driven. The exhaust note, oh my god. I don't think I've met or heard of anybody not liking the exhaust note that this car puts out. It's just, it almost sounds, I gotta be careful when I say this. It almost sounds like an exotic. It really does, because they designed this motor next to the 458, the Ferrari 458.
Proceed 4 miles on I-10 East.
With the flat plane crank, and this motor compared to the Coyote, this motor has a different firing order. It's got a different crank. I think it's bored out a little bit bigger, and I think the exhaust runners for the headers are different lengths. I mean, all that combined just makes this thing sound crazy. It sounds so good, and it just handles so well. It really does. So I mean, my complaints about the car, I mean, that's about it. The bumper gap, I'm not worried about the engine issues, to be honest, because if this engine goes, I still have warranty on it, so I'm not really worried about that. And if the motor does blow outside of my warranty, then I'm gonna build the motor, and that's just how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna build the motor, and I'm gonna make it even more capable and more stronger than what it already is, because that's the big thing with these motors, is really mainly them spinning rod bearings. Bumper gap, I mean, that's the only thing that kind of bugs me a little bit, but I'm starting to get over it. And I mean, just listen to that exhaust. It just, oh my god. Yeah, I'm gonna roll the windows down a bit. We'll probably have a lot of wind noise, but we'll see if we can hear it. Nah, not too much wind noise. Let's see. This car just sounds so good. It's just such a great driver's car and an enthusiast car. It really is. It's very unique. So I don't plan on selling this car anytime soon. But and that's the thing, I don't know what the heck I'd replace this car with. It's something you're not going to understand unless you drive one or own it. I mean, some people might completely hate it.
In 1.5 miles, keep right on I-10 East.
But this car, it's a very, very special car. So I'm gonna keep it. And the only thing I can see replacing the GT350 with, honestly, is the 2020 Shelby GT500. But for a base model price of $73,000, that makes it kind of a lot more difficult to get and to afford and to maintain. And then if you want the track pack, like that's what I would want to get. The track pack, or the carbon fiber pack, that's an extra $18,000. So right then and there, you know, you're probably approaching $90,000 for the GT500. And but that's the only thing I can see replacing this car with. That's the next car I want. That's the next car to chase, or for me to chase. So I mean, would I recommend this car to anybody? Absolutely.
In 1/2 mile, keep right on I-10 East towards New Orleans.
So would I recommend this car to somebody? Absolutely, 100%. If you're thinking about getting this car, or if you're looking for another car to get or anything, definitely look into this car. But you gotta be ready for any kind of issues it may have. Now, it's not reliable. It's a reliable car, but you just gotta be prepared for whenever an issue does come about, because they are there. They do happen. But then again,
proceed on I-10 East.
But then again, no car is perfect, and that's just how it is.